Sarah A. Bailey, welcome back to Book Club.
Hello.
This is our first book club returnee. Sarah, I cannot believe you were my second guest ever. You're my first guest to return. So it had to have been okay enough for you to come back to book club.
Absolutely. It's like I love being here.
I'm so glad that you are here, and we're here for a very important reason today. I am over the moon excited when everyone's listening to this. Tattered Tides by Sarah A. Bailey will have released yesterday. Yes, yesterday. And we're going to talk all about it today. This is one of my absolute favorite stories by you, which you know means a lot. Because Wicked and Wildflower is just my diva. But I cannot wait to dive into it a little bit further with you. Right out the gate, would you mind giving people a brief synopsis of Tattered Tides if they're unfamiliar? No pressure.
Yeah, so Tattered Tides is a small town, like new adult sports romance. It follows our female main character Willow. She comes home unexpectedly for the summer from college after she went through something kind of traumatic, and her first instinct is to kind of just like go home. So she shows up at home kind of unexpectedly, decides to stay with her parents for the summer while she tries to heal and figure out what she's going to do next, because she doesn't feel like she can go back to her college. And what she doesn't know is that her dad, who is a former professional surfer and runs a training program, he invited a former world champion who kind of like hit rock bottom. He spent a couple years in jail. He just got out. And so her dad invites him to come live in their guest house for the summer while he trains him to get back on track into professional surfing. So, just an element of like forced proximity. They're working together on the boardwalk her parents own. She's living at home. He's living in the guest house in their backyard. For people who like love the OC, it's giving those like
So
OC vibes.
true. It's
It's
so
giving like
it
Ryan Atwood.
Yeah.
um, and over he has a really traumatic past as well, and so over the course of the book they just bond together and kind of help heal each other. It's one of those books where like, I mean, things are happening the whole time. I feel like it's a pretty like quick paced story,
Totally. Mhm.
but at its core it really is just like a healing journey. Like it's just a lot of like bonding and healing and getting to know someone really deeply and kind of forming that friendship and then falling in love.
Absolutely. It is one of your most like just beautiful. I say all the time that you write the like human experience and emotions in words on paper. For someone with aphantasia, can't visualize all those things, like it makes your prose so like deeply comforting and welcoming to me. So for that, I'm forever grateful for you. But what was it like? Because Willow's experience is just like deeply heart-wrenching, and like I mean, everyone's experience is a little bit deeply heart-wrenching. And what has it been like to balance both of our leads' traumas a little bit with them falling in love and having that, like, I almost want to say whimsy to them? Like, how were you able to balance those elements of that story?
I think here's the thing. Willow's story, and I feel like her specific circumstances, I mean, I feel like the feelings and what she goes through, unfortunately, most of us women can like relate
Hmm.
to her situation. I feel like this book really is for like every woman who's gone through something and then gaslit herself afterwards by being like, it's worse for other people, so I just
Yeah.
need to get over it, or like it wasn't that bad, or I'm overreacting. But it's kind of like your body knows when it's experienced trauma, and it's your
Yes.
brain that tries to fight with you. And so, but at the core, the circumstances of her story were inspired by something that someone in my life went through.
Hmm.
And that person is like the most whimsical person you've ever met. If you sat in a room with them, you would never in a million years like think that they were carrying something that heavy, because they genuinely, I know that we always say that like this person literally lights up the room when they walk into it, but I'm telling you that like this is one of those people.
Sure.
And I think that um, when you are doing the work to heal yourself and to kind of like overcome these things, you do. There's a lot of people who are funny and they're like masking like trauma or pain or PTSD, but I do really think that if you're putting in the work to heal yourself, like that's just what life is. Like we just go through bad things and we still have to carry on. And so choosing to carry on through art, through, being social, through being funny, through, having hope and being a dreamer, kind of like Willow is just, I think, resilience in
Absolutely.
human form. And so I never wanted to take away from like the pain, and I tried to be really aware of like what situations or conversations might trigger her, might bring her back to that mindset. But I also knew that she was not going to let it like be at the forefront of her mind every second of every day. And I think that with this series being second generation, and I know her parents better than I know her at this point, like that, like she wasn't going to have been raised with that kind of mindset. Like she was going to be like a persevere type of person.
Sure. The duality of woman, dare we say.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And she just embodies that so beautifully. Speaking of second generation, both of our leads are second gens from your universe.
Yeah.
And it has been so unbelievably comforting and fun to see some of our favorite characters reappear in more maternal and paternal roles within your world. What has it been like to get to know four of your characters again in a new setting? And then you and I have also talked about a little bit, what does happily ever after mean to you when you're writing second gen for those characters?
Yeah. I've definitely had some people be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you would like put Darby and Leo's daughter through this." But that's the thing, like to me, happily ever, like you were never going to escape adversity in life. Like never, never. You can be in the happiest relationship, the best possible marriage. You are still going to go through shit. Sorry, can I cuss in this?
Sure. We'll
Okay,
just put a little explicit number on there and call it.
like you're gonna go through some shit in life.
Yeah.
It's inescapable.
Yeah.
And I think that is really like, or my goal is for that to be really comforting to readers, to know that this book that you maybe picked up way back in 2024 or whenever you might have picked it up, or if you haven't picked it up at all, because
Yeah.
you don't have to read Heathen and Honeysuckle to enjoy Tattered Tides,
Sure.
but you see this couple and you know that they're living in that happily ever after, that like after the last page has turned, that roll credits, like they're living in that time, but they're still going to go through shit because it's inevitable, and they're just going to go through it together, and they're going to overcome it together. And to me, that's what like true love is. Like if you are in love with someone, if you are in a relationship with someone, if they are your, end game, but you can't go through adversity side by side, you're not going to survive. So I think that these types of circumstances and writing a second gen gets to show readers that like none of my couples are accidental. Like every single one of them is written in the stars. They are meant to be. Like they are long game, and I get to now like showcase that
Yes.
through their like trials and the things that they're going through.
Yeah. I think I talk all the time about, I feel like you write fated mates and contemporary. Like truly, like each of these people were made for each other in your head, but nonetheless, like they were made for each other. And I feel like you and I both are extremely fortunate to have super supportive partners and those kind of things. And the truth is, like, yeah, things are going to really suck sometimes. But going through those things with the right person makes it far more, I don't know, doable.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. What has it been like going back a little bit to the Soulmate series? I know many people have experienced Pacific Shores. Can you talk about some of my favorite characters? Because I love the Soulmate series.
Yeah, no, it's been like really fun, and it is kind of fun because I know that not as many people know them.
Yeah.
But I always knew. I mean, God, I wrote the Soulmate Theory when I was like 23. I will be 29 the day before this comes out.
Amazing.
So like 6 years ago, I started writing the Soulmate Theory, and I like lived with Carter and Penelope longer than any other couple because I worked
Yeah.
on their book for 2 years. I rewrote it completely at one point. Like they used to have a completely different story, and then I knew it didn't work for them, so I rewrote it. So, and it's funny because when I look back on the soulmate theory, like I very intentionally in their book, they end up together, and they don't ever have talks about kids or if they want kids or anything like that. I just didn't they're 23 in their book. I was 23 when I wrote it, and I was in a place mentally where I was like, do not ask me about this, I don't want to talk about it. So I just didn't put it in the book, but I always kind of knew in the back of my head. I get certain, I have certain female characters where I'm like, she will never give birth, like
Yeah.
she's not going to give birth. Elena, as we know, she's scared of babies, she will
Mhm.
not be giving birth. But Penelope also, I just didn't ever see that for her. But knowing, if read the soulmate theory and Penelope's backstory, that like adoption and foster care are really are really important to her. And I just always imagined that if she got to a place in life where she was like financially stable and able to provide, that's like something that they would do. And so that always felt really natural to me and kind of existed there in the back of my mind. And then when I kind of started morphing the series together, and like they started popping up in Heathen and Honeysuckle and Wicked and Wildflower, and I was establishing this like friendship with all of them, I was like, well, I could like really see that now. Um, and it just felt so natural. And I think it's really, I loved writing, in Tattered Tides almost more than like Weston's relationship with Penelope. I loved writing Willow's because you just like, especially if you've read both books, there's this scene where they're like having coffee together, and Willow's talking about how put together she is and how successful she is and how that's like she wants to be just like her. But then if you've read the soulmate theory, you know what a mess that poor girl was.
I
And
wept during that scene.
yeah,
Like,
because you just know that like Penelope doesn't think that way about herself.
no.
Penelope probably still thinks that she's a mess.
Yeah.
And so getting to see her through the eyes of Willow, I think was like such a special thing. And one thing I really wanted to do with Celestia Cove was I wanted to see each character kind of have a bond with one of the adults that isn't their parent.
Love that.
So you get to see Willow kind of bond with Penelope, and then Allie in Sideline Souls, she has a really close relationship with Dahlia. And that one, I've been like telling, so because I'm getting a lot of people excited for Sideline Souls, which is really special. I don't think I've ever had more people be like, when's the next book? Like before.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. I'm glad that like the Easter eggs have really like stood out to
Yes.
people. But I do keep telling everyone like you have to go read The Fate Philosophy, because like I feel like it's gonna make, when you read Silent Souls, like the experience
Oh
is
my
so
gosh.
much better if you know Dom and Macy that well.
It is. It's so special. Again, as I said before, just like to get to see those characters in a different phase in their life. Has anything about any of your characters from either Soulmate series or Pacific Shores surprised you in their age? I don't really know. Actually, I've never asked you, like, do your characters tell you about themselves, or do you tell them about themselves?
Oh no, they tell me about
Okay.
themselves. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I I don't know if I would say, I feel like they're all very they're still them.
Yeah.
I do feel like Leo is like very like, I just die when I think about him like wearing Crocs. Like
Iconic.
I just don't think he gives a shit about anything anymore. He's just like out here living life.
Yeah.
Like I think I don't know, Dahlia in Sideline Souls is really fun. She's like such a, she very, I mean, and I think it's because when I wrote her character originally, she's always been a mom, but seeing her as like older with like adult kids and
Yeah.
just like the relationship that she has with them is really funny. And I think like one of the hardest scenes I've ever had to write, this isn't about Tattered Tides, but like one of the hardest scenes I've ever had to write was in Sideline Souls, because it's a very like emotionally charged scene. And I have four, former main characters who are all in the room together as parents, and they're receiving like pretty life altering news. And I had to write all of their reactions and trying to like be true to their characters and handle them in a way that like was appropriate, but was like didn't want to make readers like upset with them. It was really hard, and the only one that came naturally, like that I really didn't have to think about in that scene, was Everett. because he was just like, I'm here, I'm good. I'm like here for a good time. Like, and he was just that like really reassuring,
Sure.
calming presence, not just for his kid, but for me. And so it's from
Hmm.
his son's point of view.
Sure.
And that's like the first person he looks to that he knows is going to be like
Everything's
supporting him in
fine.
this
Hmm.
moment. And I felt like I needed him to hold my hand also while I was
Yeah.
trying to write everybody's reactions.
And you know he will. And you know he will. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to read Sideline Souls. I'm like, when is it hitting the inbox?
I sent it to you last week.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see it. It's
When you
here.
when you did that Instagram live, right before you, I commented and I said like I have to
You want it
leave,
now?
but I did comment and I said, do you want it now? And then right before I was gonna hop off it, I was like, I gotta go, but it's in your inbox. And then you like said you were like, I can't see anybody's comments anymore, and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
great. Okay. I will go. It's missing. I'll find it. Oh my God. This is the best news
I
of
can
my life.
resend it if I need to.
This is the best news of my life. Okay. I cannot wait. Switching back, Tattered Tides. I feel like, again, super 3D, three-dimensional, incredibly complex duality of man and woman characters as our leads. What are your favorite character traits or pieces of both Willow and Weston?
Um, I really do love that Willow is kind of this surprised me about her. I don't think I was expecting this from her when I started writing the book, but she's a little like quirky, I guess.
Yeah.
Like she kind of talks about how like all her ex-boyfriend's friends thought she was kind of weird. And I just, like the things that she wears, and she'll paint her nails a whole bunch of different colors, and she hand paints her shoes. Like her hot dog shoes are my favorite thing about her.
Yeah.
And I really I loved kind of like finding that out about her. Like I knew, I don't know, I was just it was one of those things where like I didn't want to go into it with a really strict expectation of what her personality should be like just based on who her parents are. I
Hmm.
wanted her to kind of morph and really be her own.
Hmm.
And what came back at me was just like this kind of like she's a little bit weird, and I kind of just loved that. I was like, oh, okay, great. I love this for you. Um and then with Weston, it was actually kind of the same thing. Like he makes those like really bad jokes. Like he's
He
like
does.
literally like dorky. And I think he just had like so much trauma growing up. He never really got to be himself around anyone.
Right.
And so when he like pops up with these like weird, he's like trying to say phrases like twist my arm, but he says like twist my leg. Like
I know.
like he's just so like his really bad like sex jokes and all the things. Like he's just so funny. And I think like that kind of came out of both of them. Like they're both kind of weirdos.
I love it.
And I loved that. I wasn't expecting it from either of them. I think the other facet of Weston that kind of took me by surprise, but ended up being something really special to write, is that I knew going into it he was obviously going to be inexperienced because of his
Hmm.
past and moving around and being in jail. But what I didn't expect from him until I started writing him is that he's like demisexual.
Hmm.
So it's not that he's just inexperienced. He's genuinely never been attracted to anybody before because he's never known anybody. He's never had a strong enough
Hmm.
emotional connection with anyone to even have a crush.
Sure.
And so you're really getting to see him like go through that whole journey,
Yeah.
which I think was just like really special to write. And it wasn't
Yeah.
something I like set out to do on purpose.
Sure.
He kind of just like came to me with that.
Ah, I love that. And I love them both. This reminded me too, if you'll share with the class for anyone who hasn't read, for the most part, every character has their Taylor Swift album. Yes?
Yes.
For both Tattered Tides and Sideline Souls. I know Tattered Tides is kind of in its lover era. We've discussed that to an extent.
Yeah, like I feel like Daylight is a really big
Yes,
inspiration for that book. So, and the
absolutely.
cover looks like Lover.
It totally does. But for each of the characters, let's do Tattered Tides and Sideline Souls. Can you give them their albums?
Yeah, I think gosh, well, I think that Willow is definitely Lover because like we
Hmm.
said, she's got that duality and she's so whimsical.
Yes.
But Lover has some like undercurrent like heavy emotional hitters that
Absolutely.
don't always get like thought about in the same way because
Yep.
the so I think that that really is like Willow, like that resilience and kind of that like undercurrent of emotion,
Sure.
but that really like whimsy, and she's so like bright and that kind of thing. I think Weston would probably be um maybe Red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's Red is another one of those where like it's like a painful album, but it's like
Absolutely.
really beautiful. And then it also has those like it's got like, 22 and like,
Hmm.
it's kind of it's when she was like morphing out of heartbreak and into her like 1989 like
Yep.
I'm out with my friends and having the time of my life era.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of like Weston's journey. Like he comes into this like
Love.
really broken,
Hmm.
and he comes out of it like kind of getting towards that like
Yep.
better place.
He
He's like
starts all too well and he ends 22.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then for Sideline Souls, I would say like overall the book is definitely giving Midnights, and I don't just mean because of the cover, even though the cover fits the vibe too, but it really is like I think of like Midnight Rain when I think of
Uh,
them. Like that idea of like this is like such a perfect person, but I have such big dreams and I don't know how to make both work.
right.
The whole theme of the book is like, what do you do when you literally are like born with your soulmate and then
Mm,
you cannot make it happen? Like, what do you do then? That
right.
is like a big theme of the book. And you really see them like kind of battle it out. But I also think, and I felt this way when I was writing, um, the Fate philosophy, the Midnights had just come out that like when I was writing it. And Macy always reminded me of Bejeweled. Like every time I listened to the
Yes.
song, I thought of her, and I was writing it at the time. And I think that really carries into like Allie's character, like
Yeah.
for sure. So I think, but I think that album would probably really speak to Archer too.
Mm, yeah. Man, I love that. So if do you go into the stories with those themes in mind? Like what is it like if you were born with your soulmate, or do those come to you within the story?
Um, I
A little
knew
bit of both.
a little bit of both. I knew when I started thinking of the Next Gen series,
Hmm.
um, and I had already had all the like OG couples, and I knew who had kids, and all of that stuff.
Yep.
And so obviously, like Macy and Dom have been around longer than Pacific Shores, and so Allie has been around longer than Pacific Shores. So I
Sure.
knew that she was there. And then when I decided that Everett and Dahlia were going to have twins, I was like, okay, I have to make that happen. And so I knew that it was going to end up being like a childhood friends to lovers
Yeah.
kind of vibe. And so I was like, how do I, that's the thing. Like childhood friends to lovers is my favorite trope to read, favorite trope to write. It's like my bread and butter. It's my favorite thing in the world. But it's like you have to think really hard about you have to really justify why they aren't just like together. Why don't they
Sure.
don't grow up together and fall in love and stay together?
Hmm.
And so when I started thinking through all of that, and then I knew I wanted Celestia Cove to be sports,
Yeah.
um, I was like, okay, I can kind of weave all of that in. I think it was partially a little bit inspired. Like I met my husband in high school. We
Hmm.
started dating in high school, but I actually graduated a year before him.
Okay.
And at that time in my life, the idea of going to college and leaving him behind and then trying to do long distance was like the worst thing. Like it like kept me up at night. I was
Right.
so, and it seemed like truly the end of the world. And obviously you look back now and you're like it wasn't that big of a deal, but it felt at that time like the end of the world. And I
Hmm.
kind of wanted to like create that like angst.
Hmm.
I love like teen angst. Teenagers are so angsty
Yeah.
and so emotional. Like we know I wrote Heathen and Honeysuckle, Reckless Roses. Like it's giving that same vibe. Like I love like an
Sure.
angsty, overly emotional, everything is the end of the world kind of vibe. Because then when you look at it as an adult, you're like, you're overreacting. And it just makes you
Yeah.
feel bad about your own life.
Yeah.
Somehow. But yeah, so I knew, and I just wanted their connection to be like so deep and so palpable and so strong,
Hmm.
that they really like, so it kind of just morphed into that like there's nobody else for these two people, and you know that the whole book, but they like still struggle to make it work,
Yeah.
and it's just really messy.
Ah, I love that. And I love the way you lean into new adult because it's very, how do you know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? Like that whole energy, I feel like is like your thesis statement. in
Yeah,
my
no,
opinion.
absolutely. I love
Like,
like that's one of the things I love most about Heathen and Honeysuckle is like you are seeing these like teenagers, they're 17, they're like planning
mhm.
out their whole life. They're like, I'm in love, this is my end all be all,
Yep.
nothing else matters. And then you meet them at 27 and they're like, I have no idea what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it's just like
It's very relatable.
it's so real. Like Taylor
Yeah.
said it herself. That's why we love it. So, okay, if what is it like growing up with your soulmate but not being able to make it work is Sideline Souls, what would you say the thesis of Tattered Tides is?
Um, that you can't love anyone else until you're giving enough love to yourself. Like Willow and Weston had to reach a point where they were going to forgive themselves enough
Hmm.
to do the effort to heal so
Yeah.
that they could be what the other person needed. And I think that they were the boost that the other person needed to like
Sure.
actually put in the work
Hmm.
to get better and to be in a better place.
God, I'm obsessed with them. They're just so good. And like I think too, New Adult allows you to kind of I wouldn't say it's like women's fiction because it's just like, there's elements of finding each of the characters. Like they have their own romance with themselves, like falling back in love with themselves while they're falling in love with each other, which
Yeah.
is just like such a fun watch or such a fun read, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I usually ask about characters, but I'll ask about scenes from Tattered Tides. Did one come extremely naturally to you? Like, which one was the easiest to write? And then which was the hardest to write within Tattered Tides? Without, if it spoils, spoilers. But,
Okay.
yeah.
I think what was the easiest? I will say that before I actually even started writing the book, Weston's love confession was the first thing that came to me. And I had that written out in like my notes app months before I actually started writing the story itself. So that obviously came to me very naturally. I feel like that kind of came to my head. I wrote it down, and then that was when I was like, okay, I'm actually going to pitch this series and try to write it.
Yeah.
Um, the hardest Um, was probably the like spicy montage chapter. I like had that idea come to my head and I was like so hell bent on it. And
Yes.
so I wrote it and then my editor was actually like, no. She was like, nope, this isn't it. This isn't it. And I was like, give me one more chance. Like, let me cook a little more. And I
Yeah.
kind of went back in and I restructured it and I added some depth and I moved some things around. And I was like, all right, let me try again. And she was
Yeah.
like, okay, we can do this.
I was
So,
talking to Torianne about that, and that scene to us is like bus, club, another bus, plane, no sleep.
it was like I was like, listen, I need to have a month-long time jump here. And I
Mhm.
wanted it to feel like a movie
It
montage.
was.
It literally is. And so it's like, and that's kind of the way I pitched it to my editor when she first said no. I was like, well, there's a month-long time jump. So I could just
Yeah.
start the next chapter and be like, it's been a month and we've done it a ton of times. Or I could give them little
Have a little
snippets.
moment.
Yeah, they're just
What's
little
wrong with the
snippets.
moment?
And she was like, okay, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I absolutely love it. Are there any Easter eggs, by the way, in Tattered Tides that you would love for people to pay attention to as they're going into the rest of the Celestia Cove series?
Yes. Um, if you see alliterative name pairings, that's a sign. Um, I just think that people should pay a lot of attention to the way that I describe Xander Ramos because I'm writing him right now and it's just the time of my life. I just think people should pay a lot of attention to him. Obviously, like the Allie and Archer Easter eggs are really, really strong.
Hmm.
I have a lot of people concerned for the last book because they're like, what is this supposed to be? Because you already know those characters as a couple. In Tattered Tides. So I wouldn't say there's an Easter egg for Live and Lou's story at the very end of Tattered Tides. A very subtle Easter egg for what their book will kind of look like. But
Pay attention.
yeah,
Oh,
just pay attention to the cousins and the siblings.
last time you were here at book club, Reckless Roses hadn't even released yet, which is like kind of crazy to think about. But what has it been like for August and Elena's story to be out in the world? And are you emotionally okay that Pacific Shores is done?
Um, I would say it took me a really, really long time to be, I mean, as you know, to be okay after Vice and
It was
Violet.
rare out there.
Yeah, I couldn't, it was like really hard for me to be on social media for a little while after it came out. I knew that like there were gonna be like the girls who were made for this book and then
Sure.
the people who were not. Like I knew that with any kind of book that's like structured that way and that kind of like tumultuous relationship, like you're going to have. But I mean, I think I've told you this before. Like, I put so much of myself and my life and my
Mm,
story into Elena specifically. And for a long time, I was like, I'll never be that vulnerable with a book ever again. Like,
sure.
all the stuff. But um, I think that I still am just that vulnerable with
Yeah.
my work. So, but I'm in a like a better place now. I'm really proud of how the series ended, and I think that that's all that matters. Obviously, I wasn't ready to let go of them, so I just
Yes.
um, I
And
stayed
that's more
around.
so where my question was coming from because I think that Reckless Roses, Spice, and Violet is perfection. So I'm just like, I can't imagine that series was just so impactful on your career and you as a person and all those things. And specifically with Elena just being so personal to you, I can imagine that moving on from that series is hard, even though Celestia Cove is next gen.
I think that like it doesn't really sink in right now because I'm in Celestia Cove and I'm like
Sure.
spending so much time with them. Also, I wrote Tattered Tides last summer. I wrote Sideline
Mhm.
Souls, like, I finished it in January.
Right.
And so I've been working on Defensive Desire since. And August and Elena are very, like, central in that book more than they are in any of the other books in the series. So for me, I didn't really take a break from the two of them.
Okay,
Like
wow.
they like came out in November. We were still promoting them really hard and then I started writing Defensive Desire. So I
Wow.
haven't left their side. Like I'm still with August and
Still at the
especially
restaurant.
a lot I'm in the bookstore every
Yeah.
single day now. So um with them. So yeah, so they're here. They're very a lot of people have been asking me that too. They're like, "How are you weaving the two of them into this series if they don't have kids?" And I'm like, "Don't worry.
You're not.
They are very present in the third book. This is kind of like their time to shine."
Amazing. I love it. Is there a world where you ever leave Pacific Shores?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, after Celestia Cove, like we're. I mean, I think there will still be references
Okay.
to these characters, and I think it like opens. I really have had so much enjoyment writing sports romance.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly. I have like projects and ideas, and obviously things that I'm working on. Um, post Celestia Cove, like I have things that I am pursuing.
Sure.
But like overall, like I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I've got my whole publishing schedule planned out through,
Right.
2035. I'm not one of those authors.
Sure.
So I know like there's a side character that kind of pops up in Sideline Souls, and I've just kind of become obsessed with them. So I
Wow.
really think it might be fun to give them a book someday. I think that this isn't really. I'll just say this because I don't really feel like it's a spoiler.
Hmm.
Obviously we know that like Lou becomes an agent.
Hmm.
And so I think I've really loved writing sports romance. Like I've kind of fallen in love with it. So I think that opens up a lot of avenues
Yeah.
because if I want to write future athletes and still have that connection,
Sure.
I think, if and when I continue writing surfing, there will never not be like a Leo Graham reference from a surfer. So
Sure.
I do, yeah, I mean, they'll still, all my books I think will always like exist in the same world.
Yeah.
But this family, like, I will not be returning to Pacific Shores after Celestia Cove is
It's
over.
time to jump off the boardwalk one last time.
Yeah, even every
Wow.
single time I like think about, because I mean, I will finish. I'll finish the series this year. So like
Yeah.
before the end of this year, like and every time I think about it, I'm like, I can't. Like I lose
Mm-mm.
my mind.
Yeah. It's just, it's such a place of like comfort and just familiarity. So I can't imagine. I feel like just speaking of Pacific Shores and the PNW and just all that good stuff, that's kind of like where your setting's inspired by. Where do you get inspiration outside of just your brain? Like, are you a music person, TV, a little bit of both? Where does your just creative inspiration come from?
Oh yeah, I feel like it just comes from like the world around me, really. I am a really big music person. I listen to a lot of like indie pop, and I feel like especially when I've been on this like kick lately where I've been listening to a lot of music I listened to like 3 or 4 years ago.
Love
And it was
that.
like when I was writing the Soulmate Theory, I'm like listening to a lot of those same songs again
Mhm.
and realizing how much they were like influencing
Yeah,
that book. But I'm also a really big, like, I am a big TV person. We obviously know I'm a big reality TV person. And so I feel like you see those references in my books, but sometimes like the way characters look are like really inspired by what I've watched on TV because like
sure.
people's faces get stuck in my brain that way. And I also just feel like the world around me, like I said, Willow's story was, inspired by someone really close to me. And
Sure.
like I will text my friends and be like, can I use your trauma in this story? Like, or just little things like the tiniest little nuggets. Like Macy has an ass tattoo of a bicycle because my childhood friends and I, our group chat is called CP Bike Gang because we one time tried to start a bike club at school and then it was
Love.
just us. And we rode bikes one time and then never rode them again. But that's been
Love.
our group chat name since 2012.
Amazing.
Um, and one of my childhood friends in that friend group has an ass tattoo. So I was like, I'm going to give this character an ass tattoo of a bicycle. It's my ode to you.
Yeah,
So I do things. I do like little things like that. I just love to infiltrate like people in my life that I love.
sure.
Allie's character, I mean, Lexi, my best friend. Allie's character is, has a lot of her traits.
Yeah,
And so just like little things like that I just like
sure.
love to do.
I love that. And we chatted earlier in the episode about I just feel like your characters are fated mates. Is there any like do you have any inspiration or way that you make them feel so connected or is it just like it just exists? They just are made for each other.
I feel like, I mean, the whole thing that kind of got me into writing romance is I was literally at an art museum in Florence, Italy. And I went to the bathroom, and in the bathroom in the stall, there were, just like writing all over it. And there were quotes. There was actually, I do remember, and this was even before I had ever read any of these books, but there's like a Throne of Glass quote that I literally
Yeah.
have a picture of. And there were just all these quotes. And so there was one, and I had like seen this on Tumblr before, so it wasn't like I had never seen it before, but it just seeing it written on the bathroom wall in this like art gallery that has some of like the oldest and most famous art in the world. Like there was just something
Hmm.
about the whole experience, but there was like literally like a soulmate theory like written on the bathroom wall.
Yeah.
And it just like that's what inspired me to start actually writing romance. And I just always like I always come back to that in my head. I really love using like have you ever seen those pictures? They'll pop up on like Facebook or like whatever, and it'll be like a human eyeball, like a close up picture of a human eyeball and then like a nebula and they look like the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like trees and then like veins.
Yes.
Like to me like the connection of like the stars and the earth and then what human beings are and the fact that we're
Hmm.
literally just like all made of stardust and the same atoms make up everything is like such an insane concept to me. And so
Sure.
in my head I'm always like, how could you believe that we're not destined to like know certain people?
Sure.
We're literally all made of stardust. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's nothing
Yeah.
is coincidental. Like, what are you talking about? And
Yeah.
I think I just believe in that so heavily that that's the way that like I go into every story with that mindset.
Yeah, I love that. And you and I both are super fans of The Alchemist. And I think
Yes.
that concept too of like everything is nothing and everything all at once and it's where you
Yes.
begin and where you end and just all the things.
Yeah, and like you like follow your omens because they lead you to becoming the person that you're meant to be, and the universe
Yes.
will return that back to you.
Yeah.
I think is like really, yeah, just all of that.
Yeah. And I just think that's abundant in your writing, in your characters, in their love stories. Like, and I think that's just what makes you special, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, it's just so. I think we read fated mates and just like written in the stars elements in fantasy so often, and I just think you capture that same feeling in the contemporary setting so well, which is just like
Well,
unheard of.
and that's kind of my goal because like fated mates is one of my favorite tropes.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much the reason like I'm not a big like fantasy girl. So if
Yeah.
I pick up a fantasy book, it is because of whatever, or I guess I should say romantasy. Like it is because of whatever that love story is, and I
Yeah.
love that fated mates trope. And it obviously doesn't translate into contemporary romance, but I will never write fantasy. Like I'm not a
Right.
fantasy person. I'm not a fantasy author. I can't ever see myself taking that avenue. I just don't think that that's like meant for me.
Hmm.
But to me, I think one of the things that like we love so much about it is like how it's absolute. Like you
Yeah.
have these worlds constructed where there's like no question to it.
Hmm.
And I think that like, we don't get that same confirmation in our real world. But
Right.
I think that like the idea of two people loving each other enough that they don't need it and they're just going to decide that you are fated to me anyway and I don't
Yeah.
need any kind of magical anything to tell me that.
Yeah.
I think is like a really beautiful like human thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love is like the greatest like sacrifice, but the greatest gift, and
Yeah.
like it's the scariest jumping off point, but like the most. It's just like the dual again. Dare we say the duality?
Yeah, I think it's just like it's literally the most resilient and like the strongest thing because like love is
Sure.
the only thing that can overpower greed and
Hmm.
pride and like hate. And I think that that is like really important. That's why I love romance so much because I
Yeah.
think that it reminds us of that. It reminds us of like
Yeah.
humanity.
I was
Uh,
just gonna say, and they say it's just, and they say it's
right.
just not. Ugh. Oh my gosh. No, absolutely amazing. Well, is there anything else that you want the people of the book club to know? What is coming next for you? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just the rest of the Celestia Cove series. I think I really want to drive home because I want people to know that, like, you don't have to read Pacific Shores or like my
Yeah.
backlist to enjoy Celestia Cove. I've had lots of readers who just randomly found it on NetGalley because they like the title or they like the cover. And I've had a lot of people who have still really, really enjoyed it and like want to go back and read the parents'
Yeah.
books now and that kind of thing. So I just want people to know
Yeah.
that like you don't have to read. I think it's
There's a
like
lot of doors to enter the Sarah A. Bailey house.
yeah,
Like you don't have to go through the front door necessarily, if you will.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then yeah, and that's just what I have. Sideline Souls will be out in September. The third book in the series will be out early next year. I might have some other things coming, who
Who's
knows?
to say?
TBA. But yeah.
Ah, so exciting. And is there anything that you want to say to the captive audience of Sarah A. Bailey supporters and lovers that are here?
I wouldn't be here if you guys weren't here, so I'm just very grateful. Literally my like what like this is even just like a year ago, I wouldn't have imagined that this is like what I would be doing every day for my life and it's literally the dream I've been thinking about since I graduated college like years ago. So and I wouldn't have any of that without my readers, so I'm just very
Yeah.
grateful.
You and I were talking before we pressed record. I was like, man, imagine the two of us going back and chatting with the girls who recorded our first episode. I rushed home from my corporate job to get here in time to record our first episode together last year. Like, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And I think I was still working at that time and I was like
Yeah,
really struggling. I like needed to be done. And I was so afraid when I quit my job that I like wouldn't last 6 months, but I have.
you
Um,
have.
and even like, I don't know if I just think back to like, it's been almost 3 years like since my debut came out, or even if I just think back to like, it's been 2 years since Heathen and Honeysuckle came out. And when
Yeah,
Heathen and Honeysuckle released, I mean, I remember like, not that readers are going to necessarily understand this like measurement, but you and I will. I remember like the first month that Heathen and Honeysuckle was out, it had 100,000 page reads, and I was like sobbing.
yeah,
I remember the first time I made like $1,000 in a month, and I was just like, this is unreal. Like, what do you mean?
yeah.
Um, And now you know me, like I'll freak out if my page reads are like under a certain amount every day. So
Yeah,
it's just like weird to think back at how monumental that felt like two
yeah.
years ago when I released Heathen and Honeysuckle.
It's just crazy, like, to just think about, again, like, the connectiveness of it all. Like, we always joke, my first ever talking video was about Heathen and Honeysuckle,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine me not talking on the internet anymore. Like, that's my
Right.
thing. Like, so I was scrolling back the other day because I needed to find some, like, older content, and I found that fateful video. It's not my best, but, like, it's just like, man, like,
I
to have a
think that
book.
was like maybe the first time that anyone ever did like a vlog type video.
Hmm.
And like I was so, I scroll through Bookstagram and Book Talk and I would see people making those types of videos about books they were reading and just like dreaming of your books being interesting enough to someone that they want to like about
Yeah.
it to the camera. I had never had that happen before.
It's just like it was so fun. That was July of 24, I think. Like it's just Sarah, it's been you and me for a very long time now.
Yeah.
So it's just I love those full circle moments, but I think that should do us. Thank you so much for jumping on again to celebrate this release. And anyone who's listening, Tattered Tides is available now, like now. And Sideline Souls is coming to you this fall. So be sure that you pick it up. And Sideline Souls will be available here on NetGalley shortly. Can I say that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, June 1st.
June 1st. So if you really want to get your hands on it, keep an eye on NetGalley. But Sarah and I are both so grateful for you all. And we couldn't do it without you. So that being said, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.